I remember my first experience when I was doing ice immersion. I was being trained on the Wim Hof method. And I remember the feeling of experiencing warmth and my fingertips, the tingles, and all those sensation, almost like an awakening. And I know it's really hard to describe this experience without going into woo-woo land and sounding so cliche, but it is quite transformational. Have you ever felt that way?
What we fear, generally we judge, and a lot of times there is a difference between fear and butterfly feelings in our stomach. And so what butterflies do, it's something new, something that is out of our comfort zone, and we're scared of that unknown zone. And I've learned this in early stages, is that the life begins at the end of comfort zone.
Hi, Pavel. I'm so happy to have you here on the show. I know you had an event last night, and I'm so grateful that you've just showed up for this and you're showing up with all your energy and all the tools that you're about to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you. So happy to be here. And thank you for the work that you're doing in the world.
Oh, appreciate that. Well, we have a lot in common in terms of burning out in the corporate world and burning out in different ways. So, you know, what really intrigued me about you, Pavel, is that you're a former athlete, you're a serial entrepreneur, and you went through a bit of a pattern, if I may say so, of burning out, pushing hard. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, I think I think we all experience this at some level, and it's funny when we do our events, I always ask, how many of you are experiencing burnouts? And literally, like 90% of the events are people are experiencing this. So that taught me is that I'm not alone in this, and that also taught me so many beautiful lessons, like how do we actually offset this thing called burnout? And so, my whole early life, I was just following the societal norm, school and finances and marriage, and essentially I took everything to a extreme in a lot of ways. From my professional cycling career, it was all about goal settings and achieving and overachieving and not enough recovery. Then I moved into business, right, and then brought all the endurance and scaled immense amount of franchises all across America. And then again, right, hit that burnout again. And so I was dedicated in life. It's like, how do I find balance? How do I find peace and harmony? And what I've learned is something that we teach today. We call it the triple H effect, and it's happiness, health, harmony. And these three H's has been crucial and vital role. And so basically what I do today, is I look at the things that are causing me stress. I look at the things that are hard first, and then I start you could say recoding them, reseeing them, or working with them. And, in our society, we're society of doers. We used to be society of havers, like the victimhood mindset that is still seen, across the world in a consciousness and in leadership, right, of our companies. But in today's world, and I think Silicon Valley was kind of the instigator of this, is like never-ending tasks. And if you're sitting for too long, you're not good enough. And if you don't work hard enough, you are also not good enough. And I see this especially in the Asian cultures when we do our events in Asia. There is six days a week work days. There is literally no work-life balance. There is no sleep. And people are literally like going back and forth, who slept less instead of who slept more. And so we have it all reversed in today's world because we come first, our health come first, and we can have all of this money all life long, but for what if we retire and can't walk or have, knee replacements and surgeries? So this is why I've dedicated my life to reverse this. Yes, to still have success, have fun, but what is the definition of success, right? Why do we have to succeed only in a career or finances? How about relationships? How about, relationship to ourselves, to another? And so that's kind of the long story short, what I view my life today after literally Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, depression, suicidal thoughts. I used to literally get sick every 2 weeks. And that's what really led me on a journey through this Triple H effect.
I love it. And I'm really curious, what would you say are common pattern between you as a former athlete who burnt out through overperformance and you as a former entrepreneur who also burnt out but for different reasons? So there was an element of physical overtraining and then there was an element of maybe mental overtraining. Like, what are some of the patterns and traits and behavior where you think, all right, these are the things that have led me to effectively burn out in different ways?
It's ego. And so when we think about ego or mind, or I like to call it as a tool, right? So we all have a monkey mind, or monkey brain that just keeps on shattering all day long. And this has been proven by science. So 95% of all our thoughts are just repetition. We project from the past and we go into the future, and then we wonder, why do we keep on doing the same things? Is all built upon our neural pathways and habit formation that we are repeating with an attached emotion. And so if we look at our lives, we're actually so much more simple than we think about it, but we allow this monkey brain to direct and run us. Now, recent studies show that 80% of our thoughts are negative. So, first of all, imagine how many of us are doubting inside, telling ourselves we're not good enough or we don't work hard enough. And so, this sequence of all of these thoughts is the running software. So, for a moment, if you think about your mind as a software, your body as the hardware, it's literally how it works. In biology, we've got trillions of cells that are constantly listening to the superior mind. And that is the same thing with the field around us, which is all made up of atoms, and a small tiny little particles is matter. Now, when that matter gets altered through negativity, through obsession, and through some form of lack that we've usually inherited in early stages of our life, then we continue using this our whole life. And so for me, it was, if I don't work hard enough, I'm not good enough. If I don't overachieve, right? Like I can't rest. And so I've built all these protection mechanisms that also connect to our emotional well-being, all our traumas and all the things that have shaped us who we are. We will keep on perpetuating these cycles until we actually literally pause, re-see them, use different techniques and tools which we can get into, like how to offset them. And so, for me, it was this obsession. And until I went into dark room, 9 years ago, I spent 10 days in complete darkness, with no food, no light, in the middle of Thailand. And people probably wonder, why did I do something so crazy? And, there's different things like Vipassana and meditation retreats that I've been through. But this particularly, I just was so burned out that I wanted to let my cell phone, behind. And I just wanted peace. And because of that peace and because of that time that I spent in stillness and solitude, I finally got myself back, out of this loop of what am I doing? Why am I doing it for? Why am I chasing for, being a billionaire, or what's next? All of the obsessions that society brings on us, and then also we then inherently, utilize. So in a shorter terms, we got to recode our software, which is the mind. So that way the hardware and then the life can work for us, aka the mind, instead of working against us. And so that was a huge piece to this journey.
And I'm so grateful that you shared this story, and we have quite a similar story, because when I burnt out as a lawyer, I went to India in an ashram to meditate for 3 months. So I didn't quite go to a dark room, so I didn't take it to the next level the way you did. But I guess that was in many ways my retreat and restoration, and that moment where I reset. And I remember one of the first things that my yoga teacher told me was, you've spent your whole life overdoing and underbeing. And I thought, what on earth are you talking about? And the thought of meditating and being still and silent. I was a lawyer, so you can imagine, Pavel. I was just like, I get paid based on my words. That's my talent. That's my superpower. Don't take this away from me. And I'm quite, fidgety on the move as a person. So then you add the layer of stillness to the silence. It was torture for me for the time being, but it was also what I needed the most in many ways, because it enabled me to recenter into the inner world. And I had completely lost touch with my inner world. I was all about the external world and not at all about the inner world.
Yeah, I so hear you. And our whole life, we can go without being with ourselves, being with our thoughts. And we're taught to do that, to basically, we are brought up from schools to be factory workers. That's literally what our schools are made up for originally. And obviously we're not needing of factory workers, but what it's teaching us is basically to continuously follow some form of structure or person, or never think out of the box. And so we've lost the power to think, because actually, even taking thinking vacations or compensations and understanding where am I heading and what am I doing, I like to treat my personal life as a company, as a business. Just like we have a goals for sales and projections and how we get to those goals, the same way I have a health goals. What do I want to learn? What do I want to create? What do I want to, how do I want to feel? And so I've created this whole ways how I spend time now that allowed me to find that balance. And if you think about majority of us as entrepreneurs or high achievers and people in career, we spend most of our time in three different buckets. There's the bucket of time with yourself, which is sleep, exercise, diet, learnings, education, whatever matters to you, right, about yourself. Then you have a time that you spend with others, which is relationships, friendships, anybody in the collective. And then you also have the time that you spend in career, or the ways we make means. And in different stages of life, this switches, right? For example, a pregnant woman will be primarily focused on herself, right? And nurturing relationship, not a career. And then vice versa, when somebody is, dad or goes back to work, right? Is focusing usually most of our time in career, right? Where we spend it. And so what I've learned is I look at this triangle, and then I start evaluating and self-assessing, what is serving me, what is not, what works, what doesn't work. And then based on that, I literally write it down, and I set these things and goals into motion as if I was running a company. And so this triangle helped me assess and understand where am I, what am I going to, because what determines how you feel is how you spend time. So if you keep on going, you are in a chronicle beta brainwave dominance, which is the agitated mind, the monkey brain, the overly thinking, overanalyzing. And that is what's stimulating fight or flight response, which is another chronic state that we are in as a society. And so we lose the sight of breath. We do shallow breathing. We're tensed up in our bodies, and then we don't allow the energy to flow. And so this is one of the main causes of stress. Now, what happens when you go into stillness, silence, solitude, or meditation, you're starting to, the minute that you close your eyes and you just put a body awareness, you're one step closer to alpha brainwaves. Then the main point or goal of meditation is how quickly can you transit into the theta brainwaves, which is the restorative mind, where there's no more monkey brain. You're in a beautiful stillness and peace. And this could be after 5 minutes, and this could be something after an hour. So when, how long do you need to meditate? It's really like how quickly can you learn to adapt your brain waves and your brain state into this new neuroplastic, change for your everyday life. And so that's kind of, I think, what we felt in this moment is we change the brain waves, we change that state, and then we allow the subconscious mind to start, depositing all of these ideas and thoughts and running, cycles from the past, so we can actually alter and trigger the future.
I love that you said that, because, too often, Pavel, and I'm sure you would agree with that, we look at symptoms rather than root causes. So a lot of my clients come to me and say, I'm drinking more and more, I'm smoking more and more, I'm taking more and more pills to deal with my pain, or because I can't sleep, I'm taking more and more drugs, I'm taking more and more stimulants, I'm having more and more damage or altered relationship. I'm snapping more and more. I'm getting angrier and angrier. But what I love about what you said is actually all of those are just symptoms of the fact that you are burned out and running on chronic stress and inflammation, and you're in your sympathetic nervous system. And actually all those behaviors are just external way of showing you that your internal world has shifted quite negatively. Would you agree with that?
100%. It's all the states and it's all our choices we're making. But the issue is our agitated monkey mind, the high beta, is being fed by keep on thinking and doing. And so this is where, I've learned this simple practice. Whenever I have an overthinking mind, you got to shift up your frequencies. Maybe you jump, maybe you do a few different breathing techniques. Maybe you listen to a music. Anything that alters that state is really the key to the discipline to be able to shift those brainwaves up. And, I had to make a friendship with my mind, because mind is the most beautiful and powerful tool we have for survival, for ideas, for, transferring between bank accounts and booking a flight, right? We need our mind. But the thing is, most of our minds are unleashed, and so we have to learn how to bring focus attention, which happens through meditation, through breath, through stillness and solitude, into our everyday life. So that way we can start using the mind as a tool to help us and not to work against us. And I literally speak to my mind like a child. I'm like, how are you doing today? I appreciate all of your thoughts, but I ask you now to step aside, just like a billboard. When you're driving a car, you have a choice. You either look at what the billboard is saying or you just pass by. And so that's exactly what I've learned with my mind. So that way, when I want to be present and aware, it doesn't keep on shattering. What am I going to eat later? And what did I did yesterday? And doubting all of the stuff that we all go through.
I love that. And I have to ask though, considering you went into that dark room, how did you come up with something so beautifully based on movement and music and sound out of being in stillness and solitude and silence? Because my understanding is that NOA AON was born out of the dark room, and everything that you do now is all around that movement, that breath, that music, yet the birthplace was stillness, solitude, and silence. Tell us more.
Well, so we would have to go back into really so one thing that I ever had in common my whole life is I have had these thoughts that kept on arising, whatever it was, monkey brain, or maybe it wasn't the monkey brain. It was like my true self that was trying to align me on the right path. These voices where there's more to life, like there's more to health, there's more. And basically what I did as an entrepreneur, I used to commit myself that every 3 to 4 months, I'm going to fly somewhere around the world in search of what is true meaning of life, or how do I heal my physical body or mental body, traumas. And so what started happening for me was that I would go into these retreats and workshops and experiences. I would have this immense new, tool set that I would bring into my life. And then I would bring it into this system reset toolbox that we call it today. Now, I always wanted to validate it by science. So everything that we teach actually has a scientific validation at some level or another. And we made it where it's simple, easy, and embodiable in everyday life. So we kind of took the woo-wee wow out and we integrated and grounded it into, how do you show up in front of your boss or in the new projections, right? Like, because we live life here in this world, in this realm. And so what happened was the first opening for me was the dark room, because I silenced myself long enough. And to be honest, it took me like 7 days of brutal, monkey mind and like agitation. And, I was like, I almost went crazy because of the I wouldn't surrender. And, then it was day 7 after being in the darkness. And I finally like completely let it go. And this was for the first time in my life, I felt myself at complete peace. I had this beautiful no mind, like I understood what it means, whatever they call it, nirvana, or these blissful states of being. And basically in that moment, it was like like something just woke me up. Like, what have I been doing? Like, what am I up to? Like, why am I just like chasing myself for all of these nonsense that I don't even care for? And so here was the lesson. Number one was follow your passion, because I've always loved music. I love dancing. I love festivals, and it was something ingrained in me. And so, I literally learned how to produce music and DJ in a solfeggio frequency after that. Um, it also gave me my purpose, which was you can't keep on learning all this without sharing it with others. So that was starting to do workshops, retreats, immersive experiences, and lectures. And then it also gave me a third part, which was legacy. And that is, how do I make means in living in service where I can create a conscious driven company culture, that is based on, the we consciousness instead of the traditional hierarchy systems. And that's NOA AON. So NOA means movement. AON is all or none. And it symbolizes duality with the whole main purpose to come back into unity, oneness. And so I made my mission now to unify the world one person at a time through beautiful tools like breath and sound and meditation. And so I literally combine my passion, purpose, legacy into these experiences, and I start living that in an everyday basis. And it's been incredible. I used to always learn from the gutter, from pain and suffering and highs and lows and up and downs. And that's what the Noah Aeon symbolizes. But now I learn through neutrality. I learn through harmony, health and happiness. And so it is possible when we take that time for us, when we unhook and we rethink our life, what is serving us, what is not, so we can dictate the choices that we have and consequences that follow.
Hey, I just wanted to take a quick break to actually check in with you. Maybe you're listening to this conversation and realizing that you're feeling quite overwhelmed yourself. Maybe you're burnt out, anxious, you have so much to do and so little time to do it. You just have a feeling that you're so busy and so exhausted and running on empty all the time. If that sounds like you, I want you to know that I've been in your shoes and I really understand how you feel. But I also want you to know that there is hope. And there are tools and strategies that I've developed that can really help you thrive and continue to do what you love without compromising on your well being, your health, your connection, and your sense of joy. If you want to have a conversation with me and actually go deeper into your personal journey and for us to explore together how setting coaching goal could help you thrive, I would love to invite you to book a call with me. So you can go ahead and look at the show notes for a direct access into my online calendar. And this is exclusively for you, podcast listener. I want to make myself available to have a conversation with you. So I can't wait for you to book a time to discuss how coaching could help you reach all your goals and your potential. Speak to you soon. I love that. And before I ask you more about this methodology, I want to go back to the darkroom experience, and I want to ask you a personal question, if that's okay. What was the darkest moment for you in that dark room? What was the moment that almost got you to the breaking point?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they were kind of coming in and out, throughout. Um, I would say when I went in there first time, I've already had enough practices of surrender. So, like in today's world, like we can let the anxiety like take over us, or we can go back to breath, relaxation, again, shifting the brain waves and the state, in some shape or another, so that way it doesn't own us. And so I would say I used a lot of breath during the time I was there to help me. I think the darkest moments were thinking about the things I have done in the past. And one of the ways that I have occupied my mind was I would literally try to go back every year of my life that I could remember and then sense the things and the people that I have hurt or that have hurt me. And so during these moments, I never realized how what a dick I was in so many ways in my life, and and how many people I have mistreated, and I have didn't spend the right time. And it was really difficult for me to accept myself, because when I start replaying it, I was eaten by it almost, by the emotion. And so those were some of the darkest times, was just simply like, wow, like I wasn't a good husband, like I wasn't always a good person. And so really on the other side, to accept myself and stop beating myself with a stick, which we all do. We keep on just beating ourselves for not doing enough and being enough. And so it was really challenging at first, but then when I surrendered, everything went into this wave of peace and acceptance and love. And that's what's at the end of pain is love. At the end of fear is love. At the end of suffering is love. But we are too scared to look in. We rather look out. And, when you focus on those things that are hard first, your life becomes easy. It's a beautiful saying I've learned, but I've always done it the opposite. I looked at the flashy things and the easy things, and then my life became really hard.
Well, and we do this day to day, right, Pavel? I mean, how common is it for us to feel a certain feeling, let's say anxiety, because we're at work? And what do? We don't go, let me sit down and breathe with that feeling. Or at least that's not what we do if we're burning out. We go, oh, let me grab a muffin. Let me grab a packet of crisps. Let me go out for a cigarette. Let me just go on my social media channel and see how many notifications I've had, right? So we're looking to soothe or alleviate an uncomfortable emotion with something external, as opposed to sitting with that feeling, labeling the feeling, doing an internal audit, and finding a holistic internal tool to address that feeling.
Yep. That would be a different world.
It would be, wouldn't it?
But I also think that's what's happening in today's world. If whatever we call it, awakening, or people, I don't even like to call it awakening. I like to call it sovereignty. People are coming back into their power. They're stepping into their choices, because we've been taught to give all of our power away into societies, into governments, and we forget the power that we actually have in every single situation to affect the emotion, the thoughts. And so it's really just how quickly can you remember your inherent power to change your state. And sooner and faster and more consistent we become, then it just becomes a second nature. And so even if you just take 3-second pause between you going into the car, sitting down and driving, or you take a 3-second pause between one email to another, even every 20 minutes. But you start somewhere and you just start identifying, hold up, I am here, I'm present, I'm going to relax my body, I'm going to go back into my breath, and then I'm going to choose to go back. And what happens is now you're not living out of reaction, you're living out of proaction, which is coming back to neutrality before you decide from a cold or a cool head what you're going to do next.
And Pavel, can you tell us more about the power of movement and music specifically in your world to offset burnout?
Oh my gosh, yes. That's the fun part. So first of all, our society, right? We gotta drink, people take drugs and to socialize. And if you think about any of the people that might be listening that are still in that paradigm, when what do we seek, right? We drink enough, so we let go enough to be free, right? So we're seeking some form of freedom, and some people would say escapism. But if you think about what we're escaping from is that pain and suffering, we want to be free. And so how do we access these states without, alcohol, without drugs? It happens through music, through dance, through great conversations. It happens through a variety of different things. Now, what I find in common, that we all love music. Everything starts with sound and frequency, vibration. Like even if you look at it from a universal perspective, there is a note that we all operate on. And that note can be dense, and that note can also be light. And so if we look at the simplicity of this, when we are in joy, and when we're expressing highest emotions of love, of happiness, of inner ecstasy, as I like to call it. We had this thing called inner ecstasy that people are chasing through, MDMA or ecstasy, but it does not have to be that way. So what we do in our sessions is we actually blindfold people at first. We put silent disco headphones and we take people on a journey through dance, through movement, through opening, until basically they hit a point where they're no longer dancing, their body is dancing them. So it's a flip. And so we create this safe environment where people don't have to worry about how they look, who's looking at them, and how they, where they are. And we use the power of visualization to teleport yourself in a different stages of life or areas. So sometimes we literally meet everybody, we're in Rio de Janeiro, imagine underneath the waterfall, and we're dancing at the stars. And, our brain, this has been proven by science, cannot tell the difference if it's happening for real or if you're thinking it. So we're using, again, science to basically help us alleviate, create this safety environment. And then what happens is people are free. Some people, shout and scream and express, and we turn up hard as well. I mean, we jump, we dance, and then when we remove the blindfolds and when we connect with everyone else, now we're bursted open and we remember, what does it feel like to not have to drink? What does it feel like to not have to take drugs and all of these things, to actually be free in that? And so it's a big part of our movement is to use sound, use music, and also use frequency sound. We use solfeggio frequencies, which, anyone can Google or YouTube. There's many of them. But we use it on a modern beat. So, for example, if you go to our SoundCloud or Spotify, it's under NOA AON. You can find majority of the tracks, the latest tracks, are all produced in 5 to 8 hertz. And 5 to 8 hertz has been proven to do a DNA repair. Also, it's known as the frequency of love. It goes back thousands of years, that the uses, the benefits, the healing that people have. And so we bring that into a modern upbeat, so to speak.
It's a beautiful way to be a burnout prevention DJ, right?
Yep, literally. We call it the healing house.
The healing house. And so just to be clear, it's really important for that framework to be built upon the foundation that attendees are sober, right? Strictly no drugs, strictly no alcohol.
Yeah, so all of our events, we purposely ask that you are high on your own supply. That's that. And when we do, so in our sessions, the main one, it's called System Reset. And basically, when you think about system, it's like a computer. So we literally, when you hold the power button for 2 or more seconds, it resets back to baseline. Now, what we're doing in these events is just like a computer. You have to connect to the internet to download new software, to download new apps on your phone. We are connecting to the inner net. And that happens through changing the brainwaves, to moving us into these different and heightened states of elevated emotion. And then whenever you have a lot of apps on your phone or computer, what happens? They're just taking up storage. And what does that remind you of? Suppressed emotions, mental patterns, unprocessed relationships. So all of this is holding up a storage in our life if we're not looking into it. And then it can burst, right? That's when anxieties and depressions and headaches, migraines, it all comes from some sort of suppression of something, right? And so what we do in our events is we look at those apps, we look at those cycles, and then through the BDM method, which is breathe, dance, meditate, we use that sequence to take people through it so they can feel free again.
Mm-hmm. I love it. To tell you how messed up my mindset was many, many years ago when I first became familiar with the Wim Hof method and breathing, I was starting to hear this formula in the biohacking world, high on your own supply. I was like, what do you mean? Like you bring your own stuff? Like I can do that?
BYOB.
Not a problem. It's like, what? Oh, you're talking about oxygen. Oh, that's interesting. It's not quite the kind of mindset I was used to in a law firm,
Totally.
But it's beautiful. I remember my first experience when I was doing ice immersion. I was being trained on the Wim Hof method. And I remember that feeling where, obviously you're completely sober, you just had water. We were recommended to be in a fasted state actually, so that we could, enjoy the experience without full belly. And so you're more aware of your body and sensation, and you're not digesting. And I remember the feeling of experiencing warmth and my fingertips, the tingles, and all those sensation, almost like an awakening. And I know it's really hard to describe this experience without going into woo-woo land and sounding so cliche, sort of life transformational, but it is quite transformational. And I just really would love your take on how can we seduce or induce or maybe attempt a very corporate crowd into those methodology, because I know that looking at those things from the outside can be quite off-putting. I remember looking at those breathwork workshop and looking at those methodology with my lawyer mind thinking, whoa, this is some kind of whimsical, fairy like experience. Not for me. I'm too corporate. That's not going to work. Have you ever felt that way? Can you relate to that? And what would you say to folks out there listening to us thinking, whoa?
Yeah, well, so a few things. Number one, whatever what we fear, generally we judge, and a lot of times there is a difference between fear and butterfly feelings in our stomach. And so, what butterflies do, it's something new, something that is out of our comfort zone, and we're scared of that unknown zone. And so, I've learned this in the early stages is that the life begins at the end of comfort zone. And so no matter at what part I was, I've learned very quickly that no matter what people are saying, they might not be right, right? And they might be not for me. I keep an open heart and open mind to a possibility that there might be something that I can learn from. So I always look at these different things from a place of I actually ask the questions. Questions is one of my biggest superpower, and it's like, is this something that will benefit me, or is this something that comes from a place of limited information, or is it limitless? And or does this work and does it not work for someone? And if somebody has had the work and there's some validation to it, why not at least give it a try, right? So like what has helped me so much in life to keep on expanding is to never become too comfortable, never keep on repeating the same damn thing every day, because that is what's taking up our vital source energy. When we're doing the same repetition, when we go 9 to 5, and when we are just looking for maybe one thing at a time, like, why not looking for something every day? Why not spicing it up every day? So I actually, find that no matter how weird and wild at first it might look, if it is something that I'm interested in at some level or another, at least I'll go and give it one chance, right? So that's kind of been like my point of view, is that if I'm not getting out of a comfort zone, I'm not expanding, and it doesn't mean that you have to like do things against your will and things that you wouldn't do, right? Like, you do it within your value system, right? What's right for you and what feels right for you. But that I find really crucial. Now, let's hone down one simple tool, and it's called the breath. Breath is what we're born with. Breath is what we die with. But what happens between first and last breath is literally what determines the quality, the awareness of our life. If we think about the breath being the main guidance to every single state that we have, it's literally, it's science, right? If you inhale, you increase your heart rate. If you slow, deep exhale, you lower down your heart rate. So it's literally controlling everything inside of us, and a lot of times, and responding to everything outside of us as well. Now, our cells, our mitochondria, are keep on responding to a threat, right? If there are any threat. And that is why in today's world, we're no longer chased by tiger, but we're chased by Instagram. We're chased by Facebook, and we're chased by emails or bosses or situations. And imagine that we've never been chased by tigers as much as we are in today's society. And this is why the key to success is breath. And so I'll give you an example. I have my phone now in my hand, and we wake up, and most of us, the first thing that we do, we go on our notifications, we scroll through the phone, we see whatever is happening, yesterday, today, and then we immediately get sucked into not breathing and tensing up in our body. What does that do? It stimulates fight or flight. You're straight into sympathetic nervous system. And then imagine that you have a full day ahead of you. Now, let's say that after that, you have a call and that call doesn't go right? Here's the next one. Here's the next threat. Let's say that maybe, you have a problem with your wife or husband or kids or something's going on. Here's the next one. So you're just starting the day off with being in this state. And then at the end of the day, you wonder, why am I feeling so bad? Why do I feel depressed? Why do I feel so much anxiety? And it is all because of the unawareness of this unconscious mind living in the autopilot. So how do we reverse it, and how do we use technology, use phones, use everyday life in our advantage? Well, it happens through a simple technique that I teach. It's called instant presence. And I highly encourage you, do this as frequently as you can. You can do it right now as you're listening or whatever you might be. The key number one, focusing on your breath. 6 seconds about through your nose on inhale and 6 seconds out your nose. And essentially, when you're breathing in an extended rhythmical way, use your diaphragm, breathe into your belly, open up the chest. So that way, when you're inhaling, you're using your full lungs capacity. You're using your nose. Nasal breathing is the key to longevity. It's been proven to extend your life. It works as a filter and also as a strength training for your diaphragm, so we can retrain how we breathe. So that's step one. Now, this breath can lower down your stress. It can bring heart-brain coherence into your state, and it can also increase your heart rate variability, or HRV, as many people track in today's world. Now, this is science. This is not something I'm making up. So imagine that now you're doing this and start using a phone with that. The second tool of instant presence is body awareness. Anytime that I get lost in space and time in my thoughts, I ask myself, where am I? Where am I? And so the second step is body's awareness. Not being in your head, not being on a computer. You are in your full body's presence and you relax your muscles. Most of the time we tense here in our shoulders, we tense in our stomach. So sense how much more relaxed you can become. So that's the tool 2. And then the third part to instant presence is, can you pay attention to the stillness and silence underneath the noise, underneath the sound? So no matter where you are, pay attention to what's underneath that note. Because you could be in the middle of airport. You could be in the middle of music festival. It's going to be the busiest place on earth, and you can still be aware of your breath, body's awareness, and stillness and silence underneath the noise. And so I call this the instant presence, and I come back to this as frequently as I can. Anytime I have agitation, coming back to this. Anytime I get lost in space and time, coming back to this. And so imagine the next time you pick up your phone, right? You're not being sucked by the phone. The phone is being an extension of you. So you can be scrolling, right? You can go through email, but you are in your body, you're breathing, you're in a relaxed state, and you're in your conscious mind where you can make those choices that work for you.
I love it. And I love that you mentioned the sequence as well, because this breathing that you're referring to, 6 in and 6 out, is coherent resonance breathing, right? So that's been very closely studied by neuroscience. It's actually one of the tools that I use as well to induce this trance state in hypnotherapy. So I really love that you use that. And then in clinical hypnotherapy, we use visualization. And so it really resembles the same format. And I was wondering if you could take us through it. I would really love to be guided by you and our listener to be guided by your voice into this 3-step instant presence. Is that something that we could do together for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, happy to. Absolutely.
Good. So we
All
can
right.
integrate the tool and learn it. So I'm going to be your greatest fan here. So I'm going to go and follow your lead, okay? And I invite our listeners to do the same.
Yes. So first thing first, no matter where you are, relax into your body and start focusing on a long, deep, extended inhale in through your nose And a long, deep, extended exhale out your nose. If you can, close your eyes and you're not driving. Let your eyes be closed. And just start simply calling and cultivating all of your energy back from all the people, all the places, wherever you've left it. Throughout the day, when we think of someone, when we go on our phone, computers, we tend to leave all of these imprints all around us. And I want you to just call it all back to you. Fill your body up with you. And also reverse this. Simply state for yourself, I am sending back all the energy of all the people, all the places that have left it on me. As throughout the day, when somebody thinks of you, when you exchange energy, everything comes from that energy exchange. So send it back to the sender so you can come back to you. Now continue observing this rhythmical breath through the belly, all the way up your chest, and subtly focus on each and every exhale, making you more relaxed, more aware of the body inside you and around you. And together, if you can, we're going to rub our hands and just rub your hands together until you feel this little burning sensation, this little heat. When you feel the heat around your palms, simply place your hands down and continue breathing 6 seconds in through your palms and 6 seconds out your palms. Connect to this little tingling sensation, vitality, vibration. And let us go on a little game of awareness. Can you extend that same feeling you have in your hands into both of your arms? Through the breath, sense it expanding into your hands, your arms, your throat, all the way up into your head. And feel that same sensation, vitality, vibration, moving also down to your chest, your stomach, until you feel your whole upper body pulsating, vibrating, resonating with your own vitality. Now move that attention also into your legs and your feet until you feel that whole body pulsating. Sense the same feeling you had in your hands, in your whole body, completely relaxed, letting go all of the tension even further. And imagine these champagne-like bubbles bubbling up around your body as if every pore of your skin was bubbling up. And next time that you inhale for 6, inhale and draw through these bubbles. And exhale out these bubbles. Fully aware. Being aware of being aware means we're in the body, connected to the breath in a relaxed state. And the third part of the instant presence, can you pay attention to the stillness and silence underneath the sound, underneath the noise, no matter where you are in the world? Pay attention to what's underneath this waterfall-like little sound. And just stay aware of your breath, body's awareness, and stillness and silence underneath the sound. And place all of your attention into your heart. And practice something I like to call vitamin S, which stands for smile. Smile at your body, smile at your life, smile at your past, because it all starts with not being so hard on yourself, having fun, remembering to live by joy, and most importantly, bring up some vitamin G, which stands for gratitude. Can you just fill yourself up with all of the thank you, thank you, thank you? Gratitude has been proven to rewire your brain, to bring in new outcomes. So start with the little things: place to stay, food to eat, clothes to wear, how lucky we are, and expand it to your families, loved ones, work, whatever you're so grateful for. And allow that feeling to flood your body, flood your system, so your day may be fully activated in the greatest expression, what you choose to shine as, so bright. Thank you all so much for listening, for being in this state. And this is instant presence.
Thank you, Pavel. I went so deep. It was beautiful.
Better moods.
I'm really grateful. That felt really nice. Of course, I love the champagne bubble like shape. That really resonated with me. I could really feel the sensation. It was beautiful.
So glad. And and it's nothing hard, nothing difficult. The meditations start when you walk out of this podcast or while you're listening. It's not this one day get somewhere or chasing some sort of enlightenment. Like we are inherently enlightened. We are these powerful, beautiful beings inside of us. And we just need to come back to who we are, not chasing it somewhere outside of ourselves anymore.
I love that. And I know that you follow a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly protocol to keep coherent and consistent with your practices and make sure that you don't burn out again. Can you share some of those with us to inspire us to perhaps adopt the same?
Yeah, it's so simple again. And that's the key to all that we teach: simplicity and embodiment. And so the way I've learned that I don't burn out anymore and I don't have these jumps and highs and lows and up and downs is through following the cycle. So everything in life is cyclical. Just like the seasons come in cycles, just like our thoughts keep on repeating until we receive them, our emotions, the same type of relationships, if you've ever seen that, they keep on coming back to you because we haven't learned those lessons. And so every cycle of our life is an opportunity to learn, opportunity and a gift, to be able to expand. And so what I found is the first half an hour or an hour of the day, once a day, I just spend it with myself. I wake up earlier and I go into meditation, solitude, breath work, visualization. No matter what that is for you, exercise, start learning how to ask your body, what is required from me today? I also like to focus on my dreams. Yeah.
Can I ask you here, because I feel like I can hear our listeners' question, I know you're a father and you have a busy family life. An instant question I have is, how do you do that with little ones and toddlers and a baby and children, right? Like, how do you maintain that? Because I know that's so hard for parents listening to us right now.
Yeah, it's funny. So I can use my wife as an example, especially, so we have 3 kids and we are, 120 days plus on a planes per year with our kids. And so we live an intense, crazy life with over 100 events all across the world that we teach. And so we've actually never been more balanced than we are now, even though we are the busiest that we've ever been. And so the question is, how can you live without having a time for yourself? And so it is such a crucial thing that we set the boundary with your external life, with your friends and people. We also set the discipline, that we set the calendar or we find that time. And maybe it's not first thing in the morning. Like, for example, for my wife, it's a midday because I'm more of a morning person. So we also dance, in that through communication. And, I literally, before I went on this call, I went to gym, I did my breath, my meditation. I was answering our school, our community. And so it's literally my holy time that I can then determine what's to come, next. And also we use something called Neurovisor, this light therapy that we produce in our website. And essentially that is an instant theta inducer. So in 6 to 10 minutes, if you don't have 30 or 60 minutes, it can help you get there instantly. I call it the VIP lane to present moment because it instantly takes down the beta brainwaves. So that's a really good tool that my wife especially loves using when she has very limited, time.
Thank you
So
for
that's,
sharing.
yeah, everything is, every time that we think that we can something or we don't want to, or it's ultimately like, how fed up are you with your current life, and how serious are you about feeling good, about having happiness, having health, having harmony. Like, I was so done with being unhappy and sick and tired that I was done with it. And when you're done, then that's what drives your power to create a time that works for you, not against you. So when you own your time, you own your life. It's a very simple saying. And so this is why I block the time. So once a day, then once a week, I digitally and physically fast. So I don't look at the phone, I don't look at the computer or TV. And the first half of the day, I generally, when it's possible, I go into nature, I connect to earth, I do some sort of hike, I write, and I revisit the last week and the week follow. Once a month, I do the same, but for 3 to 4 days, completely off. And then, just like a company, I look at the previous month, what went well, what's working, what isn't. And then I look at the month to go forward to basically set those new plans and goals and expressions. And then once a year, I spend 10 days in darkness. So I've been now 5 times. So I spent over 50 days in a complete immersion. And then and it's a total of about 15 days completely off with an integration, after. And this could be vacation. You could go in a cabin. Maybe you sign up for a yoga retreat, right? This does not have to be that extent. That's my personal medicine, but for others, we express differently. And one thing that I haven't done, and I'm calling it in, is every 7 years, you take a year off. And so then, you work within those cycles, and I literally do not burn out anymore. It's been years since I felt the feelings of burnout, and I never thought this was possible. But it is possible when you take time off. When, just like we go, 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 you got to also smell the roses. You got to stillness. You got to do self-care. You got to massage, recover. So that way the body can give you that much more.
I just love that you said that, Pavel, and I can so resonate with you because very often the critique or the question that I get from folks looking at my schedule and looking at my stories, well, but you're an advisor and you're flying out, 100 days a year. You're like gone a third of the year, just going from one continent to another, giving keynotes. How do you not burn out again? And the answer is exactly what you said. It's cyclical self-care. I work maybe, which is hard to believe, but arguably more now than I did as a lawyer, but in a way that is completely different in terms of sustaining the pace because I have super recovery tools. And I make sure that just like you, I have a daily routine, a weekly routine. Like my music self-care is ballet and opera, and that's the way that I express that love for art, and it heals me and soothes me in a way that is so important in my life. And I make sure that at least once a month there is something like that that brings me this feeling of awe and marveling and just being entertained. And I adore that kind of music. And then once a year, like you, I do something very adventurous that is related to nature, but it's also based on self-care. So last year was a yoga retreat in Copenhagen. The year before that was a safari and hikes in South Africa. So there is always that element of well-being, fitness, and all nature and immersion and adventure. And I think if you do that so intentionally, you can continue to perform without burnout. Like you can be successful and not burn out, right?
I mean, you're such a beautiful example of it being possible, and this is why, like I'm no different than anyone else. Like and then we have the same resources, same place, same choices, same thing that we can do, right? But it's like are you willing to, and are you taking yourself more serious than anyone else? Because you come first. You have to be good, right? If you're not good, your family is not good. Your lives are not good, and so I see it now so many places. Like, we're not the only ones. I mean, there's now millions of people that are living this beautiful balance and choosing what they're living and following their passion, because that's why we came here for. We didn't come here to literally be dying every day doing the same damn thing. Like, wake up. It is time that you follow that heart in the bits and pieces every single day, so that way we can express the greatest, visions and greatest versions of ourselves. And this is why, like, up until now, we've been living in a zombie world. We keep on judging one another and taking down another. That time is over. That's the old paradigm. Like, if you haven't noticed yet, we now power each other up. We accelerate each other up. We support these ecosystems. And those are the communities that we're involved in. And that's, the future of our life. So it's up to you. Are you ready
I
to
love it.
go in?
So I'm going to ask every single person listening right now, are you ready to have a daily, a weekly, a monthly, and a yearly reset, reboot, recalibrate, a little dose of self-care? Like you said, Pavel, doesn't have to be as extreme, doesn't have to be a dark room, but something significant that is going to enable you to sustain doing what you do with love, with care, with happiness, with harmony and health. So I love it. I'm going to be really honest with you as well. I haven't yet taken 1 year out of 7 years. It will be next year, my 7th year in this business. So I'm going to call you and I'm going to see if we can keep each other accountable and think about what kind of sabbatical we're having.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That
I
I
love
mean,
that.
imagine what happens in a year, right? Like, when you just have time for yourself to, like, completely rebrand yourself, right? Because that's what it is. It's like, just like you're rebranding a new product or company, right? Like, you're re-identifying what is working, what is not working. And that's the same thing I do self-assessment in life. It's like, what works, who I keep, who I don't, right? So that's the same thing, but we don't take that time to do that.
I love it. Pavel, here is my promise and my commitment. I like to make life commitment. I would like one of my reset, rehook, and recalibrate for this year to attend one of your events. How about that?
I would love that. Yes. Anytime, anywhere, you are our guest with the most beautiful ways.
Tell us about how our audience can connect to your world and become familiar with what you do and the events that you put on so successfully all year long. Tell us more.
Yeah, so there's 3 ways to connect with us. First one is through School Community, SKOOL. It's been an incredible journey. We have a System Reset free community, and there's also something called Unity Reset, which is for people that are ready to take it to another level. And we bring different speakers and biohackers, scientists, doctors. It's a collaborative, self-governing community to accelerate one another. Then we represent the same in the physical events. So we do over 100 events a year, from workshops, retreats, immersive experiences. We work a lot with executives, CEOs, YPO, EO, all the different organizations about company culture. How do we bring these type of techniques and tools into everyday life? And that's something that we also do privately. So if somebody is interested in creating a team building that's intentional, or we've done even conscious weddings, we've done conscious parties, like, where we just bring this intention into it. And then we've got our products, which is our consciousness expansion products. We have a red light, white light, vibration, nervous system hacks, where you can actually help your nervous system to stay calm. And those are tools that we've picked up on around the world that have a science and work to support your journey.
Amazing, Pavel. I'll be sure to put all of those in the show notes. And I just want to take a moment to send you all my gratitude for your beautiful insights today. And I can't wait to attend one of your events. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for spending your time with me today and listening to this episode. Remember to subscribe so that you can receive weekly updates. And if today's message resonated with you, please remember to share it with a friend, a colleague, or a loved one who could really benefit from this episode.